friends, and welcome to the metal shop up here in Mantown. So I did a thing. Faithful watchers of my channel will recognize here on the bottom, that's the broken Hamer Scepter, the kind of the cream colored with black devils Hamer Scepter that I've been threatening to get fixed, send off and get repaired, restored. Well, as I said, I did a thing. In lieu of getting that repaired, and I still plan on doing that, but I pushed it off to someday, I did this. And if you notice real quick, that's about the same size case there that's on the top. So, what did I do? Yep, I bought another one. And the Hamer files amongst you will know and recognize this one because there aren't very many Scepters out there. But this one has really only had the original owner sold to a friend who owned a music store. I bought it from him. So I realistically, I wouldn't even say I'm the third owner. I'm more like the second owner. Another guy had it at his store. So it really just kind of acts as the broker. So anyway, this is a 85 Hamer Scepter, and it was originally black with candy red bevels. And I'm not going to say the guy's name. You guys can research it. He and I become friends. The original owner, this was his first, I believe this was his first Hamer. You know, he lived close to the Hamer factory, their corporate offices, whatever. And, you know, he went there when they came out with this and ordered one on the spot. And he's had a couple of them at the very least. So anyway, this one has been refinished. And when this one made the rounds on Reverb, you know, and the Facebook groups picked it apart, basically saying it was poorly refinished. It looks like it was done with painter's tape, blah, blah, blah. It really took a beating, and not the case at all. This was a top quality, you know, GMW Dan Lawrence quality refinish. The edges are perfect, same as factory. The knocks on this guitar is that, you know, at one time, you know, probably somewhere in the mid to late 90s, this was just one of those pointy metal guitars. Didn't get a lot of love. And what the original owner did was he stripped the DiMarzios and said they were long gone for another guitar. And then when he sold this one on, he actually took off the Floyd, you know, nice vintage mid-85 Floyd, put that on another guitar. So it's got a Kahler Steeler on there and a couple of Duncan design pickups, that's unfortunate. But we are going to rectify that. Had his name on it, which I don't really care for unless it's, you know, you're a famous artist. I don't really, having pretty short sight of Hamer to put guys' names on the guitar, but hey, you having it custom made, you're paying for it, you can have whatever you want. So what I did was, that's just a label, a black label with white lettering, and it says Glenn Tipton. And Glenn being one of my favorite Hamer players of all time, I just kind of did that as a little nod to him. This will never, ever be sold or marketed as Glenn Tipton's guitar, which clearly it is not. I just thought that was kind of a cool little thing to do. I could have put my name on it, could have just done black over the original owner's name, but I elected to put Glenn Tipton's name on there. So, what are we going to do with this? Well, I'm going to strip this thing down. We're going to take off those Duncan design pickups, ditch that Kahler Steeler, and I have decided that this guitar is going to get some EMGs. I've got some couple of nice, you know, 81 and 85, de rigueur 81, 85, but I got some of the nice old logo EMGs, and I just thought they would look good. They would aesthetically be very pleasing in this guitar, and hopefully they'll sound good, and if not, we can always swap them out. But this is as close as you're going to get, my friends, to going back in time to getting a brand new guitar. I'm telling you, the finish, it's flawless. It's got great frets on it. I don't know if it's ever been refretted. I'm going to hazard a guess and say yes. I mean, look at the detail in the refin here. And they did a cool, almost like a I don't know what you would call that, like a stinger. Trogly's calls it some kind of a stinger there. That's pretty neat right there. But this thing is fantastic. And yes, it was advertised on Reverb for $4,000. I did not pay anywhere even close to that for this. It was expensive, but go find another one. They're just not out there. So I think it was worth every penny that I paid for it. Like I said, this was like going back in time and getting a brand new Hamer Scepter. So let's take this thing over the workbench and start tearing it apart. Cool. All right, so this is just going to be me stripping this thing and talking. We're up at Skycam, so you'll see this general area in the Skycam. But I figured I would talk about my my knowledge, my history of Hamer guitars. That's my personal history. And what I'm going to say now, I'm going to change what I've said previously and say this, believe it or not, this is my first Hamer guitar. The one with the broken neck doesn't count because it's in two pieces. It's never actually been, in my ownership, it's never been a guitar. So this is my very first Hamer guitar. And yeah, why not start, right at the top, right? So let's see, how did Hamer come into my circle of consciousness? And I guess probably the first band that I was aware of, or the first players that I was aware of that used Hamer would be Def Leppard. And that's Rick Savage with the basses was really first. And yes, Pete Willis had some really nice Hamer standards, but by the time I used to tell people that Pyromania was the first cassette tape that I ever bought, and it it was one of the first. The very first cassette tape I ever bought was the Go-Go's. We Got the Beat, so shh, don't tell anybody. But anyway, so that was 1983. Was really one of my first experiences, but I did see the videos that they put out later on for, Bringing On the Heartbreak and so on. Always loved Switch 625, but, I didn't pay much attention to the bass players in those days. Really, the guitar that caught my attention was Phil Collins, 3-pickup Ibanez Destroyer there. So, but anyway, I did notice Rick Savage playing some pretty cool Explorer style bass guitars with the Hamer logo on them. And let's see, come on. So next would be my stream of consciousness into the Hamer world, I think, would be a Motley Crue, really. I loved Motley Crue. I had Shout at the Devil. Mick Mars had a really cool Blitz. And let's just say the Blitz, what a terrible idea by Hamer, who made these awesome, the standard, their Explorers there, which were so cool. And then they made the Blitzes that were the headstock, a 3-3 Les Paul style headstock. I don't know whose decision that was. It only lasted a couple of years, but that was... Anyway, he had a really cool graphic. Someone tied these strings. Why? They're above a locking nut. And the things are they're like tied in a knot. I can't get them off. I will never understand that. People, you do not need to tie your strings when you have a locking clamp. It's pointless. It is pointless. You don't need to tie your strings if you had a regular nut. Ugh. Ridiculous. Anyway, Mick Mars was Blitz, and Nicky Sixx had a couple of, I'm not even sure which Hamer bases he had. Cruise bases. They were Explorer shaped. Nicky Sixx actually, he carried on using the Hamers much longer than Mick Mars. Mick Mars switched to the Kramers. All of the, this is, I mean, I don't even know what I got going on here. It will not come off. That's I'm sorry, that is really irritating. Whoever did that, they need a swift kick in the freaking crotch. Humiliating kick in the crotch. I mean, I'm talking, we got knots going on here. Anyway, Nikki Sixx stuck with Hamer much longer with his Thunderbird looking bases. The ones, he had them with the black and white motifs, and Mick Mars had the Blitz there, that Explorer. I don't even know what size that's. Here, go with Floyd tools to work on a Steeler. It looks like you can put a regular screwdriver in there. Just take your strings off. You need a collared bar to put in there. This one fit. Well, sort of. Oh my God. There's some great content here. Alright, so it does turn out that the Floyd 3 mil will go in there and spin these confounded things. So where was I? Mick Mars, the Blitz. Awesome yellow, and I always loved the yellow and black. Striper was so smart with their marketing. He had one. And then from there, it was Judas Priest. Judas Priest was very early Hamer endorsers. I think KK was first with his Vector V there, which looked just like a Gibson V. But then they went to KK had his little mini V there, and I wrote down some notes here. He sold that red V back in 2019 at auction. Sold for 27,500 British pounds, which is roughly $37,000 US. So not bad. Not bad at all. All right, so 5 minutes later, I finally got that little piece of string off out, and I just found out there's another piece here on the high E. Perfect. All right, so no, we're back for real now. Let's get these cavities removed here. Where was I? I was talking about Judas Priest. KK's little mini flying V. And it's funny because you almost never saw him, but he had a red one, a white one, and a blue one made. The blue one, I don't know that anybody ever even saw it, or if there's any pictures that even exist. The red one was clearly his favorite. And he did use the white one as backups, and he gave one of them away. Probably the blue one, I think, maybe went to a Guitar Tech or something. And the white one probably also sold. Don't even tell me. Goodness. And then you had Glenn Tipton, who had a Phantom, some Phantom style guitars and several of his own designs. Those cool. I just have a screw spinning in. One of the screws just spinning in place. Yeah, it spins, it's just not connected to anything. One of the unfortunate side effects to a refin is it builds up the paint areas like this, which are tight already. Hamer uses world's smallest screws known to man. These covers. At least that one's going to come off. This one, no dice at all. Alright. Those cavity covers removed. Oh yeah, look at that. Little chip out right there. And a little bump for that screw is completely MIA. I have almost no experience with Kaler fulcrum trims like this. Yeah, it's just gonna fall right out. Oh yeah, I'm gonna super glue that back in. That's a chip. That's a chip right there. Nice silver chip. That thing, it's okay. It's all right. I mean, it's just a Floyd. I mean, just a not as nice Floyd. It's got some, instead of having the 3 holes for the Floyd saddles, it's got these little slidey things. It's, it feels heavy. It feels well made, but it's not a Floyd. And we got a zip tie in here. So yeah, Judas Priest. After that, Steve Stevens comes along. He gets a signature model. I remember Gary Grehan from Honeymoon Suite using a pink Steve Stevens model. The video for Feel It Again, which I thought was super cool. I remember Fernando Von Arb from Crocus using a pink Hamer Chaparral. Is that their soloist copy? Video for School's Out. Tip is quite loose there. Just the tip. There we go. So hopefully, I'm not sure if these are gonna slide out because someone put a bunch of shrink wrap on there. We'll be able to slide that out of the way. Yeah, let's just do that right now. These are just Duncan design pickups. It's not a great shrink wrapping job. Slid right off anyway. Let's get rid of the junk. I'm very sorry about got some kind of nasty congestion going on here. Where was I? Oh yeah, Jack Blades from Night Ranger. Then much later, Jeff Watson and Brad Gillis used, Brad Gillis had his own model of the Scepter. Basically, it was just a Scepter, black with red bevels, but it said, it was hum single single and had a non-fine tuning Floyd Rose. Jeff Watson had a flying V. Kind of, pointy V, which was super cool. Had a double neck flying V, and then later on when Jack Blades went to Damn Yankees, he's still playing Hamers, and he got Tommy Shaw. Had some really cool Hamer Chaparrals. The soloist copy deal there. Vernon Reed later on, after he switched away from those ESPs, had some nice Had some really nice Hamers. Gary Hoey had a couple. He started out with a real stock looking like a Les Paul, double cut Les Paul looking Hamer. Had a couple of crazy ones with graphics and stuff later on. Gary Moore had a signature model. I was never a huge fan of Rick Nielsen, and probably the preeminent Hamer user. And to me, they were one of those faceless bands. You guys know what I'm talking about from the 70s? I'm not talking about like corporate rock or whatever, but where it's like you could look at the album cover, but they weren't in the magazines. You didn't really know what they looked like. Did you know what the guys from Blue Oyster Cult looked like? The guys from Cheap Trick or Supertramp? You know, Styx. What you really didn't. You didn't know what they looked like. Anyway, pots have been swapped out. This one here is a 96. This one, 96. These are both 96 pots. Oh, that's finger tight. Can't stand people that say finger loose. It's not finger loose. It's finger tight. Lita Ford, big time Hamer user. Didn't really know her until she went solo. And by then, I think she was mostly doing the BC Rich thing. Much more so than the Hamers. I know she's got Salt and Pepper, her white and her black Hamer standards, which she is using today. Yeah, I've covered my knowledge completely. Eddie Martinez from the Robert Palmer's band, you know, great studio musician. Had a Hamer. Still uses it. I saw a video of him recently. Interview where he kind of played some of his most famous songs, and he was using that old red Hamer. There we go. All right. All this stuff go back in the case. Will go back in the case. We'll put all this stuff back in the case. The three-way switch Hamer uses different from a Gibson as well. It's kind of unique. Whoever rewired this, did a very nice job. Top quality components, but we're gonna go with the EMGs. Nice long net tenon, that's important. All your tone right there. Look at all that tone. All right, rejoin me when we start wiring this thing back up. All right, Scepter. All right, so not sure if you're able to tell from the time lapse, but I ran into a bit of an issue where the pickups didn't want to fit into the cavity, and refin strikes again. When I measured, it wasn't the length, it wasn't the width. I measured this, compared it to the old pickups that came out with plenty of room. It was the corners. And you're not gonna be able to feel this, but when this was painted, there's a good amount of clear coat, and it had like a little waterfall here over the edge, and the corners were tight. So I was all prepared to get the Dremel out and everything else, but I tried again and it kind of dropped in, but it was pretty tight. I just used this, which is I have these sanding discs, whatever, it's not a disc, drum. I have these sanding drums that's for like porting out like a head, like an intake manifold or heads. And I just did it by hand. I just went in here and scuffed these up. You know, I'm a little OCD, so I counted the number of times, 18 times at a whack, and I think I did each one like 3 or 4 times. Anyway, and now the pickups will, and it's still tight, but they do drop in. It was just those corners. Yeah, see, so it's gonna be a little finicky there. So again, I said the refin strikes again. One of the reasons I went with the EMGs, full disclosure, is this guitar is a refin. These came with really, really nice thin urethane finishes, brand new from Hamer. I loved their factory original finishes, like on the broken guitar. Really, really nice. So this had a more modern finish, and I'm sure it was applied over the top of the existing finish. No one's going to strip it completely. They're going to scuff it. They're going to shoot this on top of it. So now we've more than doubled the thickness of the paint on there. And whether you believe in that stuff or not, the resonance, the breathing of the wood or whatever, the thin finish, I do believe that a thin, hard finish gives you a better sound. So that's why I'm going to counteract it with the EMG pickups. And I've often joked that these sound the same on everything. And that is a joke. Here's the thing. These will not make a bad guitar sound good. But I will say this, they sound very consistent from guitar to guitar. If you have a good guitar and have EMGs in it, and if EMGs in another good guitar, they will sound, let's use the word consistent and not the same. All right. What else? I got a bunch of the wiring done off camera. It's just fiddly. This is solderless EMG stuff there. There's a bunch of good diagrams. The one thing, and I don't know if this will help anybody or not, that was not really contained in the diagrams is the wire from the three-way switch. You can use actual wires and put it in here into the green and black bus, but I use the solderless one. It plugs into the center here, and the arrows face out. Just like when you're plugging in your output, your pickups in, the arrows face out. And this one, the diagram went white, red, black, white, and there's a picture right on there. And if the switch needs to work in reverse, you're going to pull out the white, red one, and you can spin that one around so that it will reverse the function of your three-way switch. So we're going to go to a time lapse. Sorry, this video is running pretty long. We're going to go to a time lapse, get these pickups installed, get the Floyd installed, get it strung up, and there will not be a demonstration at the end of this one. That will be a separate video. All right, so yeah, let's get this going on. All right, my friends, well, it's time to close out what has been a very long video for me. I think we're going to be over half an hour here, but I've got the pickups installed. This one doesn't quite sit flat. It really doesn't matter. That's just an aesthetic thing for me. I've got the Floyd now, and I did check it. Just gave it an eyeball check versus the Kahler trem here for the setup, and believe it or not, they were pretty darn close. So again, this does need some tweaks. Double check the intonation, double check the setup, so on and so forth. I do want to point out that I found everything on this guitar was loose, like very loose. The strap buttons were loose. On the tuners, from the top, the nuts were all loose, and the screws, the Phillips screws on the backside were all loose. And all of the buttons themselves were actually loose. So weird. I thought I contributed a lot of that to the The refin. The refin's to blame for everything here. Where, you know, over time the paint shrinks. Certainly for the tuners, that's why. And for the strap buttons, nicest came with a set of shallers. Saved me from doing it. One little tip and trick that I like to do is when I build a guitar, you guys watch my channel, you know that I build a bunch of guitars. I like to leave it on the workbench just like this for a few days. And I just come by and I'll tune it. And I will pick it up and put it in the playing position and double check and play it a little bit, stretch the strings a little bit, goes back on the bench. And I do that for several days, 3-4 days, and eventually guess what? It evens out. It doesn't need to be tuned anymore. And I mean, this is an older guitar that's not as imperative, but with a brand new guitar that I've just built, I do like to do that. Try it out, see if it works for you. But this was fun. You know, we really upgraded this really nice guitar, this Hamer Scepter. It deserves it. You know, we put a nice set of old logo EMGs in here, gave it a proper Floyd. Solderless kit went in quite easily. Buy a guitar from me and I do give you a metal cop pick or two. The locking nut's loose right there. Got to chase stuff like that down. Yeah, that's at the locking nut. Anyway, my friends, thank you as always for your support. I truly do appreciate the view and watching my channel. Please hit me up in the comments. Still respond to all my comments. Give me that thumbs up. Really helps the algorithm to recommend my videos. You know, trying to get this channel up off the ground here. I know it's been a few years, but you know, just always trying to build, always trying to increase more content. You know, more thumbs up, more views, more comments, and like I said, just trying to move forward. So here we are, Hamer Scepter. Thanks again for watching. I'll say it again. I think I say it twice in every video. I truly do appreciate your support. All right, my friends, take care. Bye-bye. Hamer Scepter.